Hello and welcome to This Is. I'm fed up with Apple. I think that I'm gonna get rid of them. I already started. We just saw the Apple event for the iPhone 16, and I am plumb pooped.
You sound like the comment section on every Apple video.
That's fair.
Here's the thing. The Apple event this year, while not the most exciting thing in the world, had quite a few things to talk about. It was an excuse for Tim Cook to say Apple Intelligence as many times as possible. I'm gonna quote you on apple.com right now. iPhone 16 Pro, built for Apple Intelligence. Personal, private, powerful. The only three P's that I care about. Let's start with the iPhone first. So the iPhone 16 has seen a good visual upgrade. So the iPhone comes in a series of new colors, and thankfully this year, there are colors that are actually good. All of these colors look like they're vibrant, cool, and that's what you should see on the regular phone. The Pro is gray and black and boring professional colors. What are you doing over here?
Okay, so here, let me give you the reenactment. So we have the iPhone 15, okay? Mm-hmm. And then they went...
Wow! Matt, what these phones are really pitched for is bringing Apple Intelligence to you, the end user. The real story, in my opinion, is really a simple one. Do you care about Apple Intelligence? They're hoping that that is a reason for you to upgrade your phone, because let's not forget that right now, Apple Intelligence is going to be supported on 3 iPhones. The existing Pro phone from 2023 and the new iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro. These are the only ways you can get Apple Intelligence. Sure, some of the iOS 18 stuff is going to be coming to other devices and blah, 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 and I'm not entirely sure what Siri's going to look like, but regardless, if you want the major upgrades, you need to buy one of these new phones. The question though, is that worth it? Because for Apple Intelligence, they mostly reiterated stuff that they've already shown, which admittedly is fine, although I will say that almost a substantial chunk of the stuff that they talk about for Apple Intelligence is not coming out yet. It's like, oh, later this year, or in the coming months and stuff. So when you actually get your hands on iPhone 16 on launch day, I'm not sure how much is actually going to be able to do. The only major new feature they really showed, but it was intelligent, is visual intelligence, which basically allows you to point your camera at things and use Google Lens.
Here's my gripe and why I'm grumpy. We saw this with Samsung, we saw this with Google, and we're seeing it now with Apple too. I don't think they should be allowed to keep announcing all these new features to sell a phone that is coming out next week and being like, you know what? Half the features we're telling you about to get this new phone, they're gonna be out roughly like halfway through the cycle until the next new phone.
The thing is with the base phone, the iPhone 16, what they do every year is the base phone gets the Pro features like a year later. The cameras, so it now has an upgraded main as well as ultra wide camera. Those are, as far as I can tell, just carryovers from the iPhone 15 Pro of last year. There are a couple of new features, including the camera little shutter button, which is included on both the Pro and the regular phones. That might be the actually coolest new feature if you don't care about Apple Intelligence. Although when we were watching the event, Ken made a great point. He's like, they gave you this, but not Touch ID. This is a legitimately nice feature, I will completely admit, although I assume it's going to be a nightmare for case compatibility. Anyone who's buying a case for any of these new phones,
no, it's going to be
beware.
Yeah, you're going to have an extra hole there. I want to kind of come back to this of like,
go ahead.
You're saying like, all right, you should buy this phone if you're into the Apple Intelligence. They're shipping with half the features missing, because if you take away all of the Apple Intelligence features, which again are not new. They showed these how many months ago at WWDC?
Well, the idea is that you buy an iPhone 16. You're going to get some Apple Intelligence now. A fair bit of this stuff will be ready on day one, but it's just some of the updates are going to be coming later. Basically, the iPhone 16, the story is really simple. It's bringing the action button. It's bringing a more durable build with more colors. The camera bump is less obtuse. There are some things that the iPhone 16 did not see an upgrade for. No 120 hertz. It is still USB 2 for its USB-C. Now, I will say that I did spend time with the base model of the iPhone 15 last year, and I actually quite liked it. It felt like a solid device. I think that this is a perfectly reasonable phone for most people. But for $200 more, you can get a whole lot more professional action.
It's easy to get bogged down in the specs and be like, oh man, look at all these things it doesn't have. It doesn't have 120, whatever. But when you go to actually use it, after like a handful of minutes, you're like, oh, I'm used to this display. It looks fine. It's very easy for our fans to be like, oh, we want the min-max it. We want the best specs all the time.
When you move up to the Pro phone, it's got the titanium build. It does have the same little like camera doohickey button. But on top of that, they have theoretically helped to improve some of the thermal throttling. A 100% recycled aluminum thermal substructure and back glass optimization to dissipate heat 20% better than the iPhone 15 Pro. Probably going to help a fair bit because the iPhone 15 Pro got so hot when you're gaming and doing sort of like heavier tasks. I think that's a nice upgrade. It also has thinner bezels. Even though the size of the phone is slightly larger, the screen size is pretty much maxing out what you can actually fit on there. You're sitting there. Go ahead, do your thing. No, go ahead. Let me know what you think about the Pro phone. I know you're about to say it.
The Pro phone is what most iPhone users get. I feel like most people shouldn't. For us who do video production, stuff like that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You don't need to shoot home videos at 4K 120. This is where I'm conflicted because like I just don't see a scenario where I can recommend a 16 kind of period. If someone asked me like, oh, what iPhone should I get? I'm trying to wrap my brain. Like if you're buying it at price, at the actual MSR price, I feel like you should just go for the 16 Pro. This year you are getting enough of a difference for $100 less. You can get the 15. Hardware-wise, it's gonna be very similar,
but it doesn't have Apple Intelligence. That's what I want you to buy.
But again, you should not buy a device that is the promise of features coming later.
I agree with that.
So you are paying a $100 tax.
I don't agree with you here. The problem is that Apple always keeps some of the older phones around. So you can get the iPhone 16, 15, and 14, and there's a $100 price band between each. The problem is, once you go down that $100 price, that seems like, oh, it's reasonable enough, but then you should just go to the used market.
Even just brand new though, like I just don't think there's enough of a difference, even hardware-wise. Is it worth the slider button? I don't think so. Even a 15 Pro used is probably going to be better.
Which does have Apple Intelligence.
Will have Apple Intelligence. At that point, I think you should wait until the 17 or whatever.
I mean, you're just summing the whole thing up, right? 16 and 16 Pro have gotten a little bit more durable. I will give a quick shout out to some of the Pro stuff because I know that for us who use these phones on a Pro sort of level, there are some nice upgrades. A higher megapixel ultra wide, which is nice. I use the iPhone 15 Pro exclusively because of the camera. I keep this thing around because I can shoot so much content that goes live on this channel and all of our other channels without even having to bat an eye, right? So that's an important sort of thing. You also have the 5x telephoto, which is now going to the standard size Pro phone. I will also say that there's no price increase, so it is still $999. I know that it's an expensive phone, but guess what? The Pro phone has been $999 since 2017. Everyone's been going up and up and up and up. The iPhone 16 Pro is the same as the iPhone 10.
Yes, it is the same price, but when you come out with a feature like 4K 120 and your base hard drive space is still 128 gigabyte,
you can't do it. You literally can't do it.
Like 4K 120 ProRes log footage is what they're advertising this for. That's like 5 or 6 clips.
Here's the thing though, right? It boils down to two things in my opinion. One of which is that Apple Intelligence, especially as more and more features are gonna come out, you're gonna be over there with like, oh, my phone doesn't do it. Like that's gonna be a reason for some people to
Guess
upgrade.
what? The people who do buy it tomorrow could be like, my phone doesn't do it. And because it doesn't do it yet.
Of course. But like that's gonna be one of the things. The other thing is a year of small improvements. Small improvements aren't bad. They don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. There's not one headlining feature outside of Apple Intelligence on either of these phones. But I do think a lot of these smaller things are gonna add up. Is it exciting? No. Is it something that's gonna get me super excited and amped and ready to go give Timmy Cook a bunch of money? Well, yeah, I guess. And that sort of same kind of idea follows suit to a lot of the other products that they announced. They did a weird update of the Apple Watch this year. A lot of the stuff they talked about was not new, it was just kind of reiterating. The Ultra just gets a new color and some new software updates, which is cool. But the bigger upgrade, honestly, the biggest upgrade of all the things that they talked about was the Series 10 Apple Watch.
Which is also weird that they called it Series 10 instead of Series X. It's a Series X, but it's the same X as Twitter.
The Series 10 has been fully redesigned. It's thinner, it's slightly larger. It looks pretty similar, but it does have like a number of new like finishes and whatnot. It's hard for me, I'll be honest, to get excited about the Apple Watch. It is admittedly a terrific piece of tech and now supports sleep apnea, so that if you are a big old snory boy, well then it'll tell you to stop it.
They used to call me that in high school.
It also is using, they called it a wide angle OLED, which I'm curious to see this in person. The idea is that you're gonna be able to see a much brighter sort of angled view of your watch. I mean, the Apple Watch has already had a terrific display for a while. It's not like anything that's like crazy. The Apple Watch seems like it's seen a series of nice little upgrades. I'm excited to get my hands on these watches and see if they're that much thinner and lighter and how the battery life is.
This is one of those things I feel like zero people were asking for. Keeping it a little bit thicker and then just giving you the more battery life is what I feel like everyone's asking for.
I think they make it really clear that if you want the Apple Watch with the best battery life, you're gonna buy the Ultra. If you want the regular normie watch that looks not egregiously, horribly ugly, then you can get the regular one.
This year particularly, Apple always wants you to get the newest thing all the time. But the problem is they just announced a brand new watch and it's not the #1 watch, even though it has like the quote unquote best feature. You want the battery life, get the Ultra, but if you want the larger display, which is pretty much actually this, like,
it is almost the exact same size.
almost the exact same size as the Ultra.
The aluminum starts at $399. The titanium starts at $699.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I just think that that's ugly, and it's fine if you're gonna pretend that you do Ironmans every day. The Ultra is so ugly, right? You might just buy a Garmin.
What?
Buy
What's
a
wrong with-
Psycho. You wanna talk about some AirPods? Because actually, the AirPods also saw an okay upgrade. So they upgraded all the AirPods. We now have 4 versions of AirPods. So sit down, grab your popcorn, and we're gonna be testing your aptitude for how much you're paying attention to me in just a moment. $129 for AirPods 4. Although they look very similar to the 3s.
They
but
look identical to the 3s.
very similar. They also have upgraded audio drivers, so they're going to sound better. But if you want to step it up, there's now AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation at $179. Now, this is a weird one because it still has the plastic tip. So there's active noise cancellation without a seal, which always is a little bit of a like kind of mix. I'm curious to try these because I feel like it's gonna make a difference, but without an actual rubber seal, I think you're still gonna have like a pretty minimal ANC effect is my guess. And then, to be fair, I know that a lot of people don't like the feeling of the seal in your ear. I actually used to be like that. I've kind of gotten used to it over the years, but the problem is that it's $179, which is very close to what AirPods Pro 2 go on sale for all the time.
Oh, I got my AirPod Pros for $179.
Yes, I'm curious to try. I do think that the base AirPods are decent, but also we live in a world where the headphone game is so competitive. It's kind of tough to justify AirPods a lot of the time, in my opinion. I haven't used AirPods in a long time. Plus, can I just say that I think the AirPods look are so ugly, and that's saying from a guy who unfortunately uses the Galaxy Buds, which are basically AirPods clones, and even these, I'm like, I'm tired of just the white earbud look. Now, they also did upgrade the AirPods Pro 2, but not hardware-wise. So they're getting some software updates. So they're going to have some additional modes that are going to help you with hearing protection. I think they said on by default.
Yes.
So if you're at a concert or anything loud, they will try to do their best to kill that noise. I'm curious to see how well this works. Do you ever use AirPods in like loud environments?
Well, the reason I bought them were specifically for flying. I might not even be listening to music or anything like that. Just having the ANC on, I'm very susceptible to, when I'm flying, the engine noise gives me a massive headache. I sit there with those on and it neutralizes it. I feel like this was just already doing this with the ANC. I feel like they're just now saying this is like an advertised thing. The seal on it is doing the heavy lifting.
It is.
The one thing that I kind of laughed at, which is good if it works, is hearing aid mode.
That's great. That's a legitimately good feature.
It's a legitimately good feature if it works well. But all I could think of when they were talking about it was, do you remember the infomercial for the Sonic ear? Hear people complimenting you at the beach with Sonic ear.
But here's the thing though, this is a legitimate upgrade, right? Because not only do you have essentially hearing aid capabilities, it'll also test. And it will basically help to determine how much hearing loss you may or may not have. And I would bet that the majority of people who put this on and try it are gonna see some level of hearing loss.
Big
This is cool.
asterisk, because with the sleep apnea stuff and this, pending FDA approval.
It's probably not far out, man. It sounds like they were like, it's like going to be out this next month.
Okay, but what happens when the FDA is like, you know what? No. I think that like, yeah, it's nice to have for someone who kind of refuses to go to the doctor.
I disagree with that. I feel like I, for many years, have questioned how much hearing I may or may not have, right? I feel like my hearing is not amazing.
But like, I don't think someone who is like prescribed hearing aids from an audiologist should be throwing away their hearing aids for AirPods.
Maybe not. But you know
what? That's where I'm
I can
coming from.
believe that it actually might be good enough to do it, even though they're giant, ugly, and stupid looking. A nice upgrade for free. The last thing that we have to talk about is an upgrade to the AirPods Max. Well, they've seen a tremendous upgrade. Probably the biggest thing that they've announced at the entire event, right? New colorways, the fact that they've added USB-C.
You're saying this too seriously. It's got USB-C. That's it. They didn't even add a power button. The main complaint to these things is that no one knew how to turn them on or off. They're really good headphones, but all you had to do was add a power button.
If they make the USB-C capable of actually running in wired mode.
When I go to my gym, the only people I see with it are people who are in high school.
It's weird at how many high schoolers I see with AirPods Max that are $550.
You know what it is when you buy MacBooks and stuff, that there'd be deals on them.
Oh.
Back in my day, they were Beats, and they were the shitty Beats, not even the good ones.
I think if we were going to sum this whole event up, right? It's a year of small improvements. You know, small improvements do add up. We don't need a giant, massive feature every time we get a new event. I mean, it would be nice if they brought out my iPhone Flippy Boy, but that's for next year, hopefully. It just seems like, you know, this is getting rid of the last of the lightning stuff in their lineup. Some minor improvements to AirPods. It's an okay update to the Apple Watch, and it's an upgrade that I do think is fairly decent on the whole of it for the iPhone. It's just not something to get excited about, and there's not a single feature, unless you were incredibly excited for Apple Intelligence, which you really shouldn't be, that you should drop your old phone in the garbage for and grab a new iPhone 16 or Pro. I will say, if you are thinking about an upgrade, there's no red flags here. This all seems totally reasonable order.
The red flag is that half the features are not available day one, and we don't have a date that they will be available.
Okay, well, they will be rolling out.
That is a big red flag.
Just...
Wait, can I see your glasses for a second?
Just do your thing, yeah.
Oh, just as I suspected. These are very rose-colored. I'm not giving them a pass. I didn't give Samsung a pass. I didn't give Google a pass, and now I'm not giving Apple a pass.
What I said, and what I'm saying, is that this is not something that you should upgrade your phone to. But if you were like, hey, this is the year I need a new phone, then these seem like there's a bunch of decent upgrades. The camera's better, the screen's blah, blah, blah. It's not super exciting, and whether or not you use any of the Apple Intelligence stuff is up to you. But these seem like a decent upgrade of the phone. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Like, follow, subscribe, and stay tuned, my friends, because Matt and Austin are about to test the ceramic shield by breaking iPhones outside the Apple Store because it's still 2012 and that gets clicks, apparently.